Here at one of the many homeless encampments throughout the entire city here at Moss Park. They've been here throughout the entire pandemic, only now, obviously, conditions have changed. And so those that are living in these spaces and those helping them have to make a decision whether they stay here in the extreme temperatures and these conditions or risk going elsewhere and risk getting COVID-19.
Now it's getting colder and we're hearing a lot about people on the streets getting frostbite and other things, as well as the fact that the city continues to remove the tiny shelters and tents that are outside right now.
It's that time of year where those seeking shelter need even more help. Hundreds have hunkered down in parks across the city for fear of making their way to a center already full or with little room.
We urgently need to open up more shelter hotels, and they need to be single-room hotel shelters as well. Just because, as you know, living in a congregate setting greatly increases the risk for spreading COVID-19. I know many of my clients are quite afraid to stay in shelter right now.
Throughout the pandemic, the city has created more space beyond existing shelters to allow for more distancing in an effort to keep up with proper COVID safety protocols. Through its winter plan, the city says it's attempting to open more than 600 more spaces in shelters, respites, hotels, and some housing units.
We are continuing to look for new space as we move forward and really focused on our goal, which is always to get people into the housing with the supports they need to be successful in the long term.
When the temperature dropped last Friday, the city opened 4 warming centers for the second time this winter. While some people remain housed there, they stopped taking people in on Monday. Under regular circumstances, the warming centers are only open when temperatures drop below -15 degrees.
It's important that we do have some flex and surge capacity when the weather does get very cold, so that individuals that may not have chosen to come inside up until this point have a place that's warm and inside that they can get to.
As of Monday, there were 8 active COVID-19 outbreaks in Toronto shelters and respite centers, with a current total of 62 cases in those locations. To date, 733 cases have been linked to shelter outbreaks.
The city was saying they were going to space out the shelter beds by 6 feet, but we know now that that's not enough, especially when living in a shelter. Folks move around and mingle with each other, and so it's really important that we have single rooms in shelters or in the shelter hotels that are now being used.
Meanwhile, the city continues to try and move people out of these encampments. Advocates say it's not worth doing that when there's no place to go. In fact, just a couple of nights ago, 8 of the 13 shelters and respite centers were at full capacity.